Hey everyone and welcome back to my channel. With the faction play event going on, I know there are some players who are coming into faction play for the first time, and in this video I'll give you guys an idea of how to set up a basic drop deck for this game mode. In FP, you know the map and game mode ahead of time, unlike in quick play. This means that you can literally have a drop deck for every map and mode combo, but that's quite unreasonable for the average player, and especially for players with less time spent in the game. So this guy will not assume that you have every mech in the game to choose from. I don't expect players to go out and buy all new mechs just for this game mode, so what I'll do is suggest the types of mechs to bring, rather than say you must buy these specific variants. This has another benefit, which is that when mech quirks change from time to time, by using a drop deck template, you can swap out mechs that have been nerfed with better ones. Also, in this video, I'm just going to talk about drop decks for non-conquest game modes. FP Conquest is mostly won by caps these days, while the other game modes are typically won by killing 48 mechs, even in the invasion game mode, and I don't want to go into a cap strategy in this video. Finally, I'm concentrating on small group or solo FP players. Large groups can make various drop decks work, and it's a good idea to coordinate with your team before the drop, even if you're dropping solo. But for those who can't or won't, this deck will cover a lot of bases. There are a few general tips I want to get out of the way first. While you can go into FP with 4 non-skilled out mechs, I wouldn't do so unless you have at least 6 or 7 fully skilled mechs that meet these build archetypes that I'll be talking about. In FP, there is no matchmaker, so as a newer player, you can be frequently matched against highly skilled players with very optimized decks and loadouts. So at the minimum, you want to take the best equipment that you can. Since your drop deck is limited by tonnage, you want to pick mechs with good firepower to weight ratio. Specifically, you want to avoid mechs that dedicate much of their tonnage to the engine. Speed isn't as important in FP as it is in quick play, and weaponry matters much more. This is partly because your assaults should be dropped with other assaults or heavies, and so on, so your team mostly will be moving at the same pace. Secondly, the siege maps don't have central features like QP maps do, so there's no risk of NASCAR. Therefore, mechs like the Executioner and Atlas are not optimal in the solo FP because their ability to dish out damage trails those of other mechs around the same weight. Lastly, you have to understand that your first 2 mechs are going to make the biggest difference in the outcome, and you should be dropping your heavy hitters first. We're also going to customize the first 2 mechs for the map that you get, and leave the third and fourth constant for this basic deck. Most matches are won or lost in the first 2 waves, so the last 2 mechs don't have as much influence on the match. This is a bit of a tangent, but I often see people drop assaults last when they're playing solo FP, and this is a really bad idea. If you drop assaults last, that means you're probably dropping something lighter for the first or second mechs, and you're probably dying faster and contributing less damage to that wave. Suppose the other team takes all assaults, and a few players on your team takes mediums. It's likely the other team will go up 1-0 or 2-0 at some point during the wave. Some players might think that they can just make it up on the next wave, but during the time it takes for those dead guys to respawn and rejoin the battle, the rest of your team is fighting a couple of mechs down. If you're familiar with quick play, you'll know that even small leads can turn into a roll for the losing team. So just because a couple of people took lighter mechs, the assaults and heavies who are still alive can get crushed pretty quickly, and that means you've basically lost that entire wave. In your last wave, even though your team is dropping a few assaults, most of your teams already ran out of mechs. The big mechs are facing numerically superior lights and mediums. This is a battle that the assaults will usually lose, so by default, drop your fatties first. Let's talk about the general idea of the deck before I give you specific decks to run. Since you're mostly going to be facing other assaults and heavies in the first 2 waves, the first mech should have the DPS to take down a lot of armor. Therefore, the first drop I take is an autocannon or Gauss laser assault. For clan, this would mean something like the Madcap Mark II-B, Daka Bloodasp, or Deathstrike. A Daka Dire Wolf KDK-3 or Marauder 2CA are also decent choices for clan. For IS, the quad Ultra Autocannon Sleipnir, Mauler, Fafnir, and Annihilator are also good options, along with the Autocannon Victor 9A1. IS has a few high DPS laser assaults as well, such as the Battlemaster 3S, 1G, and Stalker 3F. The second mech depends on the current tonnage limit that's set by PGI. Sometimes you'll be able to take a second assault and have room left over for a medium and light for mechs 3 and 4. Other times you'll have to go for a heavy. In that case for clan, this could be like a Daka or Laser Vomit Ebon Jaguar or Hellbringer, both of which have good firepower to weight ratio. For IS heavies, there's the Ultra Autocannon or Gauss Warhammer 6R, Warhammer Black Widow, Autocannon Marauder 3R. Laser Vomit with energy heat gen quirks can also be a good choice, for example, the Grasshopper 5H. Your last two mechs are there mostly to maintain or expand your lead, but we still want good firepower to wait. So for Clan, mechs like the Daka Hunchback 2C, MPO Hunchback 2CA, Huntsman, or Stormcrow are good choices. Some Clan players like to bring a Streak SRM bow for their medium, but that only works if you're confident you'll have whittled down the enemy to their light wave by the time you drop your medium. For Inner Sphere, there are a lot of choices, but I prefer short mid-range laser skirmishers like the Hunchback 4P, Crab 27B, Blackjack 1X, or Cicada 2B. The only real criteria for these mediums is to stay away from low DPS, high weight weapons like the Gauss or PPC. MRMs can also work since they are weight efficient for the damage that they do, but I'm still a little bit annoyed by their low velocity. Autocannons are also viable with the right quirks. The last mech can be a Piranha, Miss Lynx, or Arctic Cheetah for Clan, and for IS, the Wolfhound, Commando, or if you have the weight for it, an Assassin. By the time you reach your last mech, you should be mostly fighting other lights in the enemy's fourth wave, or at worst, finishing off their third wave. Therefore, you want mechs that can go toe-to-toe with other lights or finish off hurt mechs. And the chassis that I mentioned earlier can certainly do that. If you're in a different situation, then you probably already lost. Now that we have our staple deck of 4 mechs, what about the other two that I talked about earlier? You're actually going to have 3 choices for the first mech you drop, depending on what map you get. Most of the time it'll be that DPS assault, but on certain maps, specific builds are just vastly more effective than the standard mid-range DPS builds. In reserve, you'll want an LRM assault. When you get an LRM map, an LRM assault is extraordinarily effective. So when you get Polar Highlands, Grim Plexus, Caustic Valley, Hellebore Springs, for example, those maps have large expanses of open areas where LRMs can devastate an enemy team. The second reserve mech is an ER large laser boat. This can be very powerful on maps like Boreal Vault, Alpine Peaks, and Frozen City Assault. Look for mechs with high weapon mounts and energy range quirks like the Hellbringer Virago and Battlemaster 1S. This mech should be able to take at least 4 IS ER larges or 3 Clan ER larges to be able to outtrade most other ranged mechs 1v1. Ideally, you'll have 2 other mechs that can replace your standard second drop, but you can get started with just 6. Let's take a look at a clan deck that follows this template. In this account, my only clan assaults are the Blood Asp, which are good but not the best at any one thing due to them being nerfed not long after they came out. My standard first drop is this Daka build on the B variant. And I chose this Ranker for my second drop. My ER large laser reserve is this build. Now taking a look at the skill tree, I've maxed out range, maxed out cool run, and I get advanced zoom. The right skill tree is really important for these extreme range builds. For LRMs, I have a quad LRM 20 build. And here's the skill tree. For my medium, I have the MPL Nova. And for the light, we have the ER Micro Laser Piranha 2. For IS on this account, I could run a Fafnir 5 with 2 Ultra 10s and 2 Ultra 5s, a Victor 9A1 with 1 less Ultra 5, a Laser Vomit Blackjack 1X, and finally an Oxide. In reserve, I have the Stalker 3H and the Stalker 5M. Of course, these aren't the most optimal choices because I have a limited number of mechs on this account, but these will do well enough for the solo FP. Okay, let's now take a look at a sample match on the clan deck. In this match, we're on Grim Portigo Defense. Grim Portigo Defense isn't terribly favorable to either LRMs or ER large lasers, so that's why we're just going to go with our standard deck. And the enemy has opened Beta Gate and hasn't touched Alpha Gate at all, so we know that they're going to go through Beta. And they're also shooting through our Beta Gate as well, so we're pretty confident that they're going through Beta. Beta is actually not the better, it's not the best gate to push through. a little bit of game lag there. Like on this game mode, because of this ridge here, it gives the defensive team very good positions to shoot down on mechs that are pushing through that corridor. It's just a big, I wouldn't say a choke point, but this alley is just really obvious and very defensible. And if they're going that left side, sorry, the right side, they open their backs to us, which is really terrible for them. So we're up 2-0 just from that push alone. And there's actually a couple guys in the back on the enemy team that hasn't even pushed through, so that's gonna hurt them overall. So we're gonna take care of these couple of guys outside. Who are just hanging back here. So that Blood Asp is carrying triple UAC 10s. I'm not sure if he realizes that there's Ghost Heat on that. And this LRM boat is also going to go down too. So you can see those ER small lasers coming in. The ER small lasers is a addition that I recently added on this Blood Asp build. It does run pretty cool, so the ER small lasers do add a little bit of enhances damage within that 200 meter range, so they can be somewhat helpful once in a while. You should also be able to see that we do have a lot of armor to chew through, so bring your fatties first, as I said. We're facing almost all heavies, and we need that DACA firepower or, you know, something with high DPS to be able to take down all that armor. So we've nearly wiped out their first wave right now. And that is it for their first wave. I do want to go and try to burn this mech. Although I have a good amount of ammo left over, I do want to get through all of my mechs this round. So let's also just try to damage their second wave as well with the remaining health of this mech. And if you're new to FP, if you're winning by a lot on the first wave, it's often good to try to burn your, well, not exactly suicide, but push out of the gate to prevent them from doing a cap, not a cap strategy, but like an Ogen or Gen Rush strategy for the rest of their waves. So a lot of teams, they'll just go, because they realize they're down so much in the first wave, they'll ignore the mechs and then go for gens for the rest of their waves. So by damaging their second wave, you're helping to prevent that from happening. So we've already gotten quite a bit of damage into their second wave already, at least on a couple of mechs that have been out in front. Just gonna follow these guys. We're gonna die pretty soon, but we should have achieved our goal. Like, their second wave is a quarter to a third down already. So our second drop is the Ranker. The Ranker is kind of nice on this map because of the high mounted lasers and the high mounted Gauss. That can be used to defend that ridge very well as well. You'll notice that one of our guys is already disco for some reason. So we're playing a man down temporarily. Um, we have a couple of friendlies here with us. They're not like our team isn't grouped up very well right now, so we don't want to push their position, or we don't want to. I just want to stay here where it's relatively safe for now. So most of our team is, well, our team's kind of split right now between near where the Omega is and where I am. So we're gonna just do some mid-range pokes until we can make sure that the rest of our team is here. Again, just taking some mid-range shots over at the enemy position without pushing too much. We don't have that much support with us. So by turning this corner, we should get some back shots. It looks like the enemy team, 4 enemy mechs are paying attention to my position right now. My only other ally seems to have went down. And yeah, they turn a corner. Even though I have some support around this corner, it's a little bit late for me because my ST is already pretty much blown out. Could have done more with that ranker, but 500 damage, not too bad. Here we get to our third mech, which is the Nova. The Nova has pretty good damage output, especially with the energy quirks that it gets. But it is a medium, so with not that much armor, so you have to be careful in positioning this mech. Don't want to make it die too quickly, and then not be able to contribute for the rest of the wave. So you're gonna look for ways, because there's probably still like maybe heavies and maybe even some assaults on the other side for wave 3. So you gotta be careful and try to shoot from the sides or from the back if possible. So we're just trying to be patient here and then wait for their push. And the enemy team is still predictably charging the beta gate, so we know where they're coming from. Like ideally, I'd have a medium mech with higher mounted energy, so that I can poke over the ridge and then just shoot down like I did with the 2 Blood Asps. But the Nova is all I have on this account. I do have the Arctic Cheetah too, but it's not. It's a little bit too light for wave 3 for me.
Here they come.
So just staying patient and then waiting for them to push. Then we can shoot them from the back. Okay, looks like the push is happening. Their third wave is very damaged already, as you can see. Start killing some of their third wave mech even before they've gotten into the gate. So yeah, one of the cool things about the Nova is the ability to pop tart laser like you see here. We're able to shoot mechs from the back now that they've entered the gate. I think that's the third time I killed that pilot in this match, so interesting. You should have also noticed that we took a pretty big lead already in the second wave, and you know, as I mentioned, the match is often won in the first two waves. So, like, you pretty much already know the outcome here. They probably would have just done better by trying to gen rush for the last three waves, but you know, that didn't happen. So that is the end of their third wave, and we're up pretty big. I want to get to my last mech, so I'm gonna try to go out and do some damage to the last wave. Now you see they're opening Alpha Gate for no reason. Now it's a little bit too late. They should have done that at the beginning of the match. When we burn mechs, we don't want to waste them, so it's good to push out with other mechs that are also burning as well. So it looks like they're still dropping heavies on their last wave. It's generally not a good idea, as I said before. So our Nova should be dead pretty soon. And now we get to our last mech, the Piranha. There's not much left for it to do, so with just 4 mechs left, simply just need to. I just want to show you at least what the Piranha is intended to do in this game mode. Okay guys, if you enjoyed this video, do consider supporting the channel by checking out PureVPN with the link in the description below. Their plans start out at only $3 per month, and they have servers located in 140 countries, making them a pretty affordable and effective choice for anonymity. I've got a chance to use them for a little while, and their servers max out my internet connection, and it passes the anonymity test that I've tried, like the DNS leak test. Well, that's it for now, and make sure to subscribe for more content like this, and I will see you next time.